Hi guys, it's Frankie from Frankie Tech. Good to see you guys again. And just like I've done with the K30 Ultra compared to its predecessors, I want to compare the key specs and differences between this Mi 10 Pro, which is their global flagship release, versus the Mi 10 Ultra, which, as we know, takes everything that's been great about this Mi 10 Pro and steps it up a notch. And this Mi 10 Ultra is a story of 120s. So 3 big 120 specs that make the Mi 10 Ultra a better release than this Mi 10 Pro. And that includes the 120Hz refresh rate on the display, 120 watt fast charging, and the 120mm 120x times zoom periscope camera that has now been included on the back of the Mi 10 Ultra. But there are also some other big differences between these two models that I think a lot of people aren't clear about that I want to highlight here as well. So let's have a look. So in terms of design, we're going to get a very similar, gorgeous, sleek aluminum and glass on this Mi 10 Ultra. We're looking at 9mm versus 9.5 on the Mi 10 Ultra and 208 grams versus 221 on the Mi 10 Ultra. So not only is it a thicker phone, it's also a heavier phone, and that's probably due to all the new advances and new cameras that they put on the back. In terms of the display, we're having that same 6.67-inch dimension, but believe it or not, that's where the similarities on these displays end, because the Mi 10 Ultra is actually using a different panel than the Mi 10 Pro. This phone is using one of Samsung's Super AMOLED displays, while the Mi 10 Ultra is using a China-produced OLED panel. And you'll start to see the story of this Mi 10 Ultra. They have switched a number of components for a China-based component, and we'll get to that in the cameras very soon. Now we'll see how the Mi 10 Ultra panel compares to this Samsung Super AMOLED panel, but in terms of improvements, we have 500 versus 800 nits of max brightness. We have an 8-bit display versus 10-bit that should allow for smoother colors on that panel, and obviously the key star here is that 120Hz refresh rate. But we also have that 240 touch sampling rate on the Mi 10 Ultra, while it's only 180 here on the Mi 10 Pro. Talking about performance, and this is the one area where I think they have the most in common, Snapdragon 865, and I think a lot of people expected the 865 Plus on this phone given the timing of the release. But that said, we will be getting a 16 512GB option for the Mi 10 Ultra, which is just incredible. But having used this 8GB Mi 10 Pro for a bit of time, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Maybe if you're doing a speed test, maybe then RAM management will be better, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference. Performance is pretty even on both of these devices. In terms of battery, it's also an equal playing field here, 4,500 versus 4,500, with the big difference being in the fast charging capabilities. Now, this Mi 10 Pro has been one of the fastest charging phones on my channel. With a time of around 45 minutes, give or take, you can charge this from 0 to 100. Well, the Ultra just blew this out of the water, and every other phone on the market with a 23-minute 0 to 100 charging time. It puts even this Mi 10 Pro to shame. And according to these numbers, that would make the Mi 10 Ultra the new champ here on Frankie Tech, beating out the Realme X2 Pro once and for all. And 23 minutes is about the time it takes for me to shower and get ready to go out. Your phone could be completely dead and then fully charged up in that time. Just incredible, and one of the major upgrades, I think, over this Mi 10 Pro. In terms of audio, we're still going to have those dual stereo speakers on the Mi 10 Ultra, and if they're anywhere near as good as the ones on this Mi 10 Pro, we should have some of the best performing speakers on the market. And now let's get to it, the cameras. This is where we see that other big 120 spec, the 120mm periscope camera on the Mi 10 Ultra, which allows a 120 times hybrid zoom, 5x optical zoom, and that's really going to be the star of the show for this Mi 10 Ultra. But there's also one big difference that a lot of people haven't talked about, is that the Mi 10 Ultra has replaced that 108 megapixel camera that was so touted on this Mi 10 Pro for a 48 megapixel OV48C OmniVision, that's right, sensor on this Mi 10 Ultra. Now, a lot of you may think, but Frankie Tech, from 108 megapixels to 48, that's a downgrade. Well, on paper, you may be right, but I will say that this 108 megapixel sensor has had problems, and all the phones it's been featured on, just like this Mi 10 Pro and the Galaxy S20 Ultra, they have suffered from focus issues. And so once again, we see Xiaomi moving away from this Samsung sensor to an OmniVision solution. And honestly, I don't have a problem with that. Now that I've used the OV48B on the Redmi 10X Pro series, the 48C should be even even better and should produce very pleasing results. And so this Mi 10 Ultra is looking like an extremely well-rounded camera, and the 120 I think is a little bit of a gimmick, but where this phone is going to shine is in this 5x optical to 10x hybrid zoom, and these shots are just showing incredible levels of detail and quality. I think Xiaomi's made the right changes on this Mi 10 Ultra, and they should be a step above what we see here on the Mi 10 Pro. So that's it, guys, a more detailed rundown of the specs difference between this Mi 10 Pro and the Mi 10 Ultra. And now let me share a thought from shout out to my man Jose on the Discord chat that brought up a really good point. These Mi 10 Ultra and K30 Ultra phones are commemorative editions. And because they are 10th anniversary commemorative editions, it appears that these phones are only going to have a limited run of production. And this would point to the main reason why Xiaomi is not releasing these globally. When you do a limited run of devices, you're going to have the factory producing these for a bit of time for all those Xiaomi fans who want to get their 10th anniversary edition, and then once the stock is sold, that is it. Then in the fact that I think these phones are offering tremendous value and may even in the case of the K30 Ultra even being sold at the cost to build the phone. So that really explains why Xiaomi is making this a limited run and is not putting these out for global release. But hit me up in the comments. Are you still going to try to get your hands on one of these commemorative editions, Mi 10 Ultra or K30 Ultra? Or are you very happy with your flagship global version of the Mi 10 Pro or K30 Pro? Hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, give me that thumbs up. And if you love the content of Frankie Tech, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for future updates. And the K30 Ultra is on sale in China today. So hopefully in the next couple of days, I will be getting my hands on this amazing phone. So stay tuned, guys. It's going to be a big upcoming week here on Frankie Tech. So that's it, and this is where I leave you by saying, this is Frankie Tech, signing off. Have a good one.